Hello pilots and welcome back to another X-Wing flight video brought to you by Out of Arc Gaming. We have part 2 of our epic play between Quinn and Amy. Just a quick recap, we were at the end of movement at turn 2 in the last video. Quite a lot of damage had already been taken. The red Syndicate Smuggler is down to 8 hull. Yellow and green have both taken a shield. The Raider has taken quite a battering from a ramming speed maneuver from red, and the Gozanti is also feeling a little bit sorry for itself. Once again, I am joined by...
Quinn's here still, ready to give you the lowdown on why I'm just ramming everything, because, why not?
Well, thank you very much, Quinn. It's always good to know why you've decided to ram everything this week. But we're just going straight back into the shooting for round 2. So we've got the pink Onyx Squadron Sentry trying to get some damage into that green and successfully getting one through. Darn you reinforced there. And
it's quite funny that we've got I3s as the first, engage first.
Yeah.
I3s.
I think only ever in a swarm game, or maybe if you're running an intro game for someone, would you have I3s as your first ship shooting.
Yes, especially they're generics as well. There's nothing special about them beyond the fact that the Brute is quite an interesting ship on its own with its special turret type.
Yeah, and I mean it's got its heavy laser cannon. Unfortunately, it rolled 1 hit out of 4 on the heavy laser cannon. That was an absolute missed opportunity there, unfortunately. But it will go through because obviously reinforce can't cancel the last hit or the only hit. So nice little bit of damage.
When it's on a huge ship, one damage, I get that back at the end of the turn because my shield comes back. You have to do repetitive damage into huge ships or they just recover.
Absolutely. And this is going to be a nice range 1 shot there from the Gozanti into Brown there. So I can imagine we're going to see quite a lot of damage going through. Fingers crossed.
But I can take it. I'm on 14 hit points. I can take it. That's the thing about this list. You can do all the damage in the world, but they've got 14 hit points. It's going to take you ages.
Yeah, it's not the fastest thing to get through there. Now, something I forgot to mention previously, Amy actually has the initiative here. So she, other than her Raider, everything on her side will shoot before Quinn. And then the Raider will come in at the end. Oh, that's not a bad shot there.
Does look rather uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely spend that calculate for 3 hits and a crit. I like it. So that's... It's hard to tell if you're reinforced there.
I believe I am, which is why I just removed that 1 dice. And then I should have a calculate, which I then spend for that. Do I have a calculate? You should say you can't see the tokens.
Yeah.
Also, so much ship in the way.
Yeah. Also, how crazy was that it had up to range 5 showing there? Range 5 is massive. That almost reaches the end of the board.
Yes, another thing about the range is that you get a dice for every subsequent range after range 3. So a big ship can have 3 evade dice if you attack it at range 5 with something like the Turbolaser Battery.
Yeah, which is quite nice because obviously Turbolaser Battery is insane. And if you didn't have the option to get additional dice against that, it would just be so broken.
Yes. I mean, there's on my Turbolaser equipped ship, which is yellow, I have a team's upgrade called Bombardment Team, which has a target lock link calculate. So you need all that. That's not too bad. I can take 2 hits. So you have a target lock linked calculate. So the target lock you need for the Turbolaser Battery, it's not just a free thing. Not only does it cost 3 energy, you also need a target lock. But the Bombardment Team lets you spend that calculate to reduce or increase the minimum or maximum range up to a maximum of 5 or a minimum of 1. So you can change the range of attacks that you can do with certain upgrades. So you can get boosted scanners, which lets you do a target lock you spend energy to do it at successive ranges beyond 3, so you can do it at range 4 or 5.
And that
Unless you're
includes
attentive.
and that includes coordinate and jam as well. But I think the Tantive can do it at range 4 anyway, can't it?
Yes, the Tantev's ship ability lets it do primary attacks and locks up to range 4 anyway. Like the Tantive is just broken. Like it's a nice ship, but it's so hard to fly against. Unless you've got 6 Sea Rocks, in which case I'd probably make short work of it.
Yeah, true. Now, I'll tell you what would be quite scary, though, is the Raider, who, when it has you in the bullseye, rolls 1 additional die. So imagine that, range 1 in the bullseye. 6 red dice.
Do love a good 6 red dice. Max out that allowable limit.
Yeah, so that would be crazy. But it looks like we're going to see some more damage on the Raider coming from Red Syndicate Smuggler there.
I mean, that's what I'm there for. Gotta kill that Raider. Like, that's where all the points are. That's the juicy ship, as it were.
Yeah. I mean, what I find funny is obviously you ramming Amy there actually gave her half points on red. But I know that, again...
Playing the long game.
I mean, this is a long game. I mean, we're on part 2 and we've still got 70 minutes left of gameplay to go through. Making sure that when we did these parts, we actually stopped them at natural points rather than just midway through a ship moving, because that would just be odd. And I can see we do have some crits coming in there on the Raider. Unfortunately, again, there's just so much information there that we don't actually have the full list of all the crits. Well, we have the full list of all the crits that are being taken, just not... we haven't been able to tally them up with exactly when they have been taken, unfortunately.
They are very dense, the damage cards. They're not very nice huge ship cards. So not only do you get the 2 crits, they're also, as a general rule, more nasty, I guess, nastier. Because like one of the ones I've taken stops me doing basically any actions. It's called Panicked Crew, and it means you can't it means you can't gain green tokens and you can't coordinate. So that means you basically can't do any or jam. You can't do any actions unless there are actions on a card. So like say you had, I don't know, some card that gave you another action, like Tibanna Reserves, for example, which gives you an action to gain back 3 energy, or you have to fix the card. So and then you've got ones that just give you like 2 jam tokens. So goodbye your reinforce and your focus. You've got ones that give you ion tokens, ones that give you additional damage for a number of ion tokens that you have. So you can get up to 5 ion tokens, and that's 5 extra damage cards if you get that crit. Like they are unpleasant. Something that TTS doesn't show you, going back to the arc that just came up on the Sea Rock, you may have noticed that it kind of misses the Gozanti. But if you look at the actual base, particularly on the red one, for example, you can see that the arc doesn't start at the front of the base like it does on a standard ship. It starts at the midpoint. So actually, the rain, like it's kind of like a hybrid between a full arc, which you have on the Raider, and a standard arc.
Yeah.
So you've got that kind of additional space. So I am at range 1 of the Gozanti, even though the arc from TTS doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I suppose when they're doing the arcs from them, the natural point for them to try and find that arc is the center point of what would be the front part of the base. So it doesn't quite marry up to be the actual central point of the base. So it's going from where that front stem is.
Yes.
So, but yeah, because obviously you don't quite get the 180 arc with a huge ship, other than the Gozanti. The Raider. But you are pretty much close to it with where you could be alongside for the majority of your base and still get shots on something.
I quite like the way the Tantive does that, because its primary attack is 2 side arcs. So it's like, it's a broadside. It's quite nice and thematic. Like, because obviously you look at it and you think, well, you won't put the guns on the front or the back because there's not enough room. So you stick all the guns on the side.
I mean, when you look at the Tantive from the top-down view, it kind of looks like the engine block looks like a fist, if you ask me.
The way they've set out the engines are really cool.
Yeah.
And in the game, you can see my long game is already playing out because I'm now 100 points ahead of Amy.
Yeah. So that's a lot of points you've just got there. Half pointing the Gozanti and the Raider now. We'll see how long you remain at half points on both of those when the shields start coming back in a second.
Yes, I suppose that's another point with the crit, is I haven't been gaining energy back on my red one because I have a crit that stops me getting back energy.
The engine coolant leak, I believe.
Yes, something like that. Yeah, like it's just they're so nasty. Which you need the 2 actions so you can repair the cards that stop you doing actions and then actually do an action.
Yeah. So engine coolant leak, after you execute a speed 3 to 5 maneuver, roll 1 attack die. On a hit or crit result, suffer 1 matching damage, then repair this card. Okay, so that's not the one there, but that's still bad.
Yep, that one is problematic since I keep doing speed 5s into her.
Yeah. I mean, the list of them is just crazy. You've got engine coolant leak, panic pilot, damaged circuitry, atmosphere leak, power surge and drive damage, panic crew and controls disrupted. There's so many different crits that you can get.
I have to get a second deck out in this game, I remember, because I have so much heart. So many crits.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. Like some of the hull and damage. And I mean, I remember back in first edition where each ship had their own damage decks, and the Tantive and the Raider had 2 damage decks, one for the front and one for the back. And you could actually destroy the back of the ship, and the front would still be there.
That's ridiculous. That's madness.
I mean, I used to love it because it was 2 cards that would sit next to each other, and they were both dual-sided. So you could have this really pretty front of your Raider, and then the back is just this hulk, this just destroyed engine section, and it was just
I hope you said we're still flying half a ship.
Yeah. Oh, I can land this. But yeah, it was just really cool. I mean, again, one of the things they've done with 2.0 to make the game flow better is having it as just one overall ship card. And I think that there's so many differences that they've done with 2.0 huge ship play compared to 1.0 that really has streamlined it and made it so much more user-friendly. I mean, don't get me wrong, 1.0 Epic was still pretty cool, but 2.0, it's such a better experience to play than it was in the previous edition.
I mean, it's hard enough setting up it with having to deal with 1 ship card. I can't imagine having to treat each ship as 2. That would just be a headache.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, it was only the Tantive and the Raider that had 2 ship cards. But it was a bit of a nightmare because you had to then obviously marry up which damage deck you were using for each ship. And if you were, I mean, for you right now, you would have 6 separate damage decks on the board. Amy would have 3 separate damage decks for 2 ships.
That's a lot to do with.
Yeah, as opposed to the fact that Amy still needs 2 separate damage decks anyway, because she does actually have standard ships on there, which look like they are getting a little bit of a battering at the moment. It looks like you've decided to try and get rid of some of those TIRBs there.
I mean, I might
catching it at range 3 as well.
But the only thing I can reach with my primary weapon is it, so I might. Although going with the iron kind of much better looks at it from the 4 dice, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in a nice. If I moved first, which sadly I don't, they're in a perfect place for me to just do a 3 bank, run them over, and then that would be by TIRB.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, wherever they go, you can probably guarantee that you're going to run over at least one of them. I mean, that green Syndicate Smuggler looks like it's in a prime position just to go, out of my way, please.
Yes. I mean, it's not quite a free damage on a standard ship if you run it over. It's not as bad as if you bump into a big ship, but you do have to roll dice to the number. So it's 1 for a small ship, 2 for a medium, 3 for a large. And you either get a stress, or in the case of a huge ship, more likely lose an energy, or you take E damage. It's the same with obstacles. If you run them over, you have to roll a dice. Also, much like a seismic charge, once you run it over, the obstacle is no more. Like, it just goes.
Yeah.
One thing I always found weird about Epic is it's twice the map, but you still only use 6 obstacles, but the map is twice as big.
Yeah, but I mean, as we've already seen, you've hit 2 of them already.
But again, if I take a damage, look how much hull I've got. I get that damage back. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it's not a huge, excuse the pun, issue for you. So you can just plow through them and not really care.
Yes, that's the thing about huge ships is the odd bit of damage, you can just shrug it off.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at the overlapping obstacles, what it says on there is asteroid or debris field. The huge ship suffers 1 crit damage and gains 1 stress token. We'll come on to stress in a moment. I know Quinn's mentioned it a couple of times there. With a gas cloud, you gain 1 jam token. So you don't get a deplete token. You get a jam token.
I think we did it wrong in this game then, because originally when I played this, it was you rolled a dice on it. I think I may have been using older rules, but yes.
Yeah. And obviously we mentioned stress. So after a huge ship gains a stress token, it must spend 1 energy to remove a stress token, if able. After a huge ship recovers energy, it must spend 1 for each stress token it has. Then it removes 1 stress token for each energy it's spent this way. Otherwise, a huge ship interacts with stress tokens in the same manner as a standard ship. So, I mean, if you're getting stressed in there, you must have taken suffered a lot of stress.
Yes. So the dial on a huge ship looks normal. You've got blues, you've got reds, you've got whites. So as I say, reds you spend an energy to do, if you can. Blues, unless you're stressed in that rare occasion, aren't usually that important unless you have, like, I believe the Raider has optimized power core, which means if you do a blue, you get an energy back. But otherwise, blues are pretty much ignored. So,
yeah. I mean, what was quite interesting going back to first edition, like next to your maneuver, it also had like energy that you either had to spend a certain amount of energy to do a maneuver, or you could gain it back by doing maneuvers. So again, that was something else that made first edition very complicated, and you had to spend a lot of time thinking about exactly what you were going to do, because it wasn't a case of, I gained 2 energy back a turn because I've got a Raider. You had to almost move to regain some of the energy, or have certain cards like your Tibanna Reserves, etc., to get those energy back.
Yes. The more I hear about first edition, the more complicated it sounds.
I mean, the main reason I liked first edition Epic was because I was able to buy huge ships, and they looked really cool, just in formation with the other ships.
They do look nice, yes. As we've mentioned, the Gozanti with 4 ties hanging under it just looks pretty sweet.
Yeah. Ooh, that looked like it was quite a painful round there from that broadside from the Raider onto Red. Obviously can't finish it off now, but I think at the moment Amy's probably quite happy not to finish it off. Definitely doesn't want to suffer additional damage from Dead Man Switch.
But I think it would have been better to finish me off, because I'm going to ram her again. Because if I die, I stalwart captain, and I don't die.
Yeah.
So look at that. I'm in a perfect position to T-bone her, like straight into the side. I die, I don't die. She takes 5 crits. Like, it's win-win for me.
I mean, it's a given that you're going to ram at this point, because A, you've done it before. B, you're not exactly going to do a stop maneuver when you've got the option to do it. I mean, admittedly, you do it. Well, I say that you're about to gain a shield back, so you won't actually take yourself out by ramming.
I keep forgetting I got shield back.
Yeah. I tell you what, it's a shame, because one of the things you don't get whilst you're playing this on TTS is the little resource tracker token, which I love. I think
the little like the twiddly things, they're quite nice, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so cool, especially the fact that you can actually track 2 ships on that as well, because it's 2-sided.
Yes.
On either side, so you actually get enough to be able to do 4 ships. You don't get the bases for 4 ships, but you get enough trackers to do 4 ships in the pack.
The way I've seen it done is you use the left-hand column for the maximum amount. For example, if you're flying something like the Corsair refit, it's not the same as what's written on the card. So it's nice to have that, like, it's actually 5, not 3. And then the right-hand column is what you've actually got left, which in my case is 0.
Yeah. I mean, that would be quite a good way of doing it as well. I quite like that. But I just think it's a cool little tool. Again, another thing that they've done to really make huge ship games accessible. So
it's just a shame that the ships themselves aren't that accessible. Like they are pretty pricey to say the least.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, what you get a lot of ship in there. You're going to get quite a lot of cards in there. I mean, each one you buy, you get a damage deck in that ship, in that pack.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you were to buy them all 2nd edition, you're already looking at, what, 4? Because it's what, the Raider is on pre-order. You can get the Tantive and the Sea Rock, and then the Tridents. There's 4 damage decks you're going to get there. So I just wish there was a way of being able to buy the damage decks separately and the bases separately, like you have with the standard damage decks. Because I'm not going to lie, I would like a second damage deck. That way, if I'm playing with someone else, I can supply that. Because again, not many people have Epic.
Yes, like the only way to get it, like if you've got first edition huge ships, the only way to get the right bases is to buy the huge conversion kit, which, as you say, you only get 2 bases in. So for someone like yourself, you either have to, I suppose, are you ever going to fly more than 2 Epic ships at a time? Present game excluded?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, to be honest, now if I was to buy another Epic ship, I'd probably get the newer version of it, so I'd get more there. But I mean, just to convert the ones I have, I would need 3 packs and then have a spare base.
That's not the cheapest endeavour.
No, and I mean, I don't need 3 copies of every pilot card because I've only got 1 of each.
Yes, I see where you're coming from.
We mentioned a moment ago, obviously, how much your points would then drop at the end of turn 2 when the shields come back, and you've gone from 175 points all the way back down to 79.
I would like to say I am still in the lead though, and just because but they've only gone by 2 shields, so I've only got to do 3 damage, and I get those 100 points back again. Like it is a bit weird that like. It's a bit like someone's got an X-Wing with R2 and they've run away and they regen those shields. Like, you've gone from winning to not winning, so...
Oh, yeah, you've gone from having a ship at half points to then not having half points on their ship. Thank you very much, Fergus.
I'm reminded of a tournament game I played once where there was a wedge, like a proper, like, expensive wedge, and I, like, nearly killed it. And then it flew off in the complete wrong direction, got 3 shields back, and I hadn't nearly killed it anymore.
Yeah, Wedge is not a ship you want to have to try and take out twice.
No, he is not. He's great fun unless you're flying against him. Flying him is hilarious. Flying against him, not so much.
Yeah, I've come up against Wedge a couple of times, and I think of all the Rebellion pilots, he is probably the one that if he's on the board, I'm going to focus at to the exclusion of any other. I don't think there's any other pilot that is... I mean, there are a lot of really good pilots in the Rebellion faction, but I think the Wedge is possibly the best.
Yes, like an X-Wing Wedge with Snapshot. That's always a laugh, because you get that free attack.
Oh, it's horrible. It's just absolutely brutal. And then his ability, I mean, you see people put outmaneuver on him as well, and you're like, do you really just want to double down on the pain that you're going to cause me?
I mean, it's quite good fun with the A-Wing one now. You can stick out maneuver and another talent on him. So as long as you're doing a primary attack in your front arc, you can take off those 2 defense dice. Like I've got him in a list with a tractor. So if the ship's tractor, that's -3 defense dice. Like
that's just
hilarious.
Nasty. That's nasty. Wow. You're only getting defense dice if it's obstructed or at range 3, and that's only if you had 3 to start with.
I know. I do like such silly combinations like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some of the combinations that you've pulled out. It's almost impressive that you don't have suppressive gunner on here.
No gunner slots, sadly.
Ah, that explains it. Otherwise, I probably would have expected to see 6 on here.
I mean, I love suppressive gunner. Like for what it is, like it's relatively cheap, and on a high initiative, these aren't high initiative or high attack dice. I don't with 4 natural attack dice. Like it's just, oh no, I can't focus. Well, you've
Yeah.
got 1 less attack dice anyway, so.
Yeah, it is brutal. So let's have a look and see what kind of moving shenanigans we're going to have. Obviously, those TIE RBs are in a tricky... Oh, looks like we're actually getting some undocking here.
Yes, that's not really where you want to put them on that side of the ship, considering there is a big brown thing that I am presently pointing to about to come round that corner and they're ties. So a speed 3 and they're dead. Because 3 crits is going to kill a tie.
I mean, it's quite nice that you actually pointed that out as well. Again, another one of the ways that, like, one of the things that I enjoy about playing this game is that you don't get a lot of gamesmanship. It's very much, well, we're here to have fun. So if I can see that you're going to do something particularly silly, unless it's silly and I want to see you do it because it'd be funny, you're going to be, most of us are going to be there like, are you 100% sure you want to do that?
Yes, so, like it would be a shame that she's deploying them so they don't die when it explodes, when it dies. But it'd be a shame if she deployed them directly into being run over. Like, that would be unfortunate.
I mean, one thing that is a little bit unfortunate is obviously the docking mechanic, as a rule, is fantastic, but it doesn't work for the Gozanti on TTS. However, the wing tool does work, and I think that the wing tool is... I'm really glad that they actually added that into TTS. For those of you that haven't played any epic or huge ship play in TTS, when you spawn in, the wing commander card, so veteran wing leader, etc., it gives you a little widget that, just like when you have a ship docked or you're assigning a bomb token, you assign it to the ships within that wing, starting with the leader, and then left, right, back left, middle, back right, in which order you want them. And you just move the first ship. You only use that ship, the leader's dial, and once it's moved, you click form wing, and then all the other ships move up with it. I think it's so good that it actually does that.
And it's also a really useful mechanic in actual gameplay, because wings allow you to do strange things, shall we say. Because they, regardless of what the leader does, the wing, as a general rule, attaches to them. So you can do like a 3 sloop, and you still have that same formation shape, even though there's no actual dial-inable way that you could keep them in formation. It means you can't bump them when you're doing like formation turns, that we all know is one of the most annoying things about formation flying in standard. Is like if you're doing a 1 hard, the other ones need to do a 2 hard, a 2 soft, or who's bumping who, and then, as we've seen in several games, like 1 bump and losing that action can be what kills that ship. So being able to keep them in formation and not have to worry about that is good. And also you get the wing leader cards give you different shenanigans. That means you can normally deal damage away from the leader. So I believe Sky Strike lets you deal up to 5 damage to the other wingmates rather than the wing leader.
Yes. One of the limitations on Sky Strike is that you can't... The wing leader, I don't believe, can perform barrel rolls or boosts. It breaks the wing. But obviously, you can assign a hit or a crit to up to 5 different ships. So it does mean that you're going to keep that leader alive a lot longer. But I mean, just going back to obviously doing the moves there, I mean, if your wing leader, like the crazy things you can do, if your wing leader puts in like a 3 bank or a 3 hard, whichever way it's going, the ship that's on the outside of that is going to end up doing a 4 bank or a 4 hard around it. So suddenly seeing that ship do such a huge maneuver is just mental.
Yes, it's particularly interesting in something like the new Phoenix Cell Wing, where you can have different size ships. So you can do this huge maneuver in the Ghost, and then you have all these A-wings around it as well. Like, and also there's deploy tactics that you can do with that as well, and it's very hilarious.
Yeah. And obviously as well, you're going on the dial of the leader. So in this one, we've got 4 TIE fighters, so they've got the same dial. But if you've got a TIE Defender, a TIE Interceptor, a TIE Advanced X1 or V1, they have a very different dial to your TIE fighter or the ships that are potentially supporting it. So suddenly they've got access to moves that they couldn't even have dreamed of. So that's another crazy. Like the Jedi Commander one is brilliant because you just see like Torrens and V-Wings doing like a 2 sloop with your Eta 2. And it's like, yeah, you couldn't do that before.
Yeah, like the openings are great.
Yeah. Ooh, looks like we're seeing. Was that a ram there from Red again?
It most definitely was. So I've got to roll my dice for my 3 to 5 speed maneuver crit. So it could kill me. Like this ram could be the final ram.
Yes.
Which I'm sure Amy would shed no tears over.
Yeah, I think you actually rolled a blank there.
Oh, good. It lives to ram another day.
Well, unless it gets shot.
But the I was supposed the Raider could do a stop, because if the Raider had to move forward, I'd be out of its arc. There's also some nice mines that have been there the whole time that the TIE brutes are just about dancing around.
Yeah, they're circling around them quite nicely.
That's such an it's what in Epic there are so many unfair cards like that one. Just like you stick a mine in front of the enemy, and you're like, well, you can't go that way anymore. In fact, you can stick up to 2 mines in front of the enemy, but there's only 1 device slot on the Sea Rock, which is a bit odd. But
yeah, I mean that was something that you could do in First Edition as well, not in Epic, in normal. A card that came with the Skirg, and I can't remember what it was, but it was something similar to that, where you could basically just go, all right, I think you could lay up to 2 mines or 2 bombs per ship that had it.
Nice.
So you'd literally just go, right, I've got 3 Skirgs, all with cluster mines, and ... So it was very broken, and I'm kind of glad that didn't translate across to second edition.
They've been very specific with the trajectory simulator and Genius, which lets you do funny things with devices, in making sure you can only do them with bombs. No Genius in front of someone, then drop a mine and force them to take it. No trajectory sim of just throwing a mine forwards. Like they've made sure that mines are more difficult to use, shall we say.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time you'll find that mines are very much area of effect. You're not hoping that you're going to, I mean, you're hoping that you're going to use them, but you're generally not guaranteeing it unless you are flying very well.
It's always funny when you're just in front of someone in the system phase and you're like, I'm going to drop a mine now. Guess where it's going? And payback.
I did that against one of the guys from Entoyment, actually. I had a Decimator bumped with one of his Scum Falcons, and I knew that he had to go in a certain direction, otherwise he would definitely be going off the board the next turn. And I was like, well, this is the ideal point to drop a mine then. And he had to go over it. And I was like, I'm kind of sorry, but that worked really well.
Yes, mines can be devastating.
If I remember right, it was a coronet as well, so that also meant that he was ionized.
I've had a Falcon be coroneted, and then it didn't last very long because you knew where it was going, and it couldn't. Yeah, it got into a kill box. I've played an interesting game where I had a Shadow Port Hunter in the Lancer that got coroneted, and then Electro Proton bombed. That was painful.
Yeah, Electro Proton Bomb is not a nice bomb when it goes off, if you're near it.
It don't even have to be near it. It's range 2. It's a nasty piece of work, but it's hilarious if you use it right. Yeah,
I mean, that's definitely you pop that down and everyone just looks at it and goes, how can I get away from that quickly?
As a general, or how can I,
You definitely You don't want to be near that when it's going off. It causes a lot of pain.
Although I think if you were in a TIE fighter, you wouldn't be that concerned because you've got no shields to lose.
Yeah, true.
But then I guess you're ionized and possibly disarmed. Like,
yeah,
I do like it. Like, it's a hard thing. It's a hard one to use. And it's a hard one to get away from after you've laid it because it's so big. But
so it's still moving all of the sea rocks up, but it looks like green hasn't moved yet, has he?
I don't think so. I think I'm savouring the moment since there are 2 ties that I may or may not clip, given how close they are. Clipping one would kill it if I clip pink. Brown is apparently untouched, so brown would be fine is a strong word, but better than pink.
Yeah, pink isn't going to like it. Pink will... Oh, and you missed pink, but you definitely ran over brown.
Yeah, so now I get to put brown behind me, but it is a shame that I missed pink because I would have liked to have killed pink without shooting it.
And looking at that, you didn't miss by much either. It was the most narrow of margins. And
I should be able to kill it with all of the guns that are pointing at it, though.
Well, what I think funny, I'm just trying to have a look at it. It's obviously hard to see that arc, but you can kind of just see the back of the arc and where it obviously opposite. I think it just gets out of green's arc. I mean, pink and blue have definitely got an arc and are probably going to take it out, but brown won't get the opportunity to complete that.
Yeah, so brown's taking its 3 crits from just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like, it was fair and epic. Like, that's not quite half points, but it's certainly not pleasant.
Well, I mean, those are actually 3 of the crits that I can actually figure out where they are because there's 3 crits in a row. You've actually got damaged and let's have a look. It's blinded pilot, damaged sensor array, and I believe a direct hit in there as well. So you did actually get half points on that straight away, if I've worked that out correctly.
I mean, that's not a nice collection of crits to get. Like, that's kind of like action negation right there.
Yeah.
And you can only focus, but you can't spend focus when you're attacking. Like, that's not a nice combo.
And obviously you're now putting it into a position in that rear 0 to 1.
Yes, and then Amy will get the chance to rotate it should she so desire.
I mean, again, although it would be quite nice to rotate it, I don't think you're going to need to.
No, I mean, it's got a nice shot on yellow or brown, but they obviously also get it in return, but they're going to be focusing on the Gozanti.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, the Gozanti's still fairly healthy. It's got 8 health left, so, I mean, you can definitely get rid of it.
I'm not entirely sure why I put it on that side, not the side where I had... Oh, I suppose because pink and blue are going to be focusing on the Raider, so I don't want to dilute their firing.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the pink heavy there, which you still want to try and take out. So that's one that you need to be getting rid of, but you want to try. You've still got 11 health to get rid of on the Raider.
Yes, and if I don't kill it, it gets more health back, which, as we've seen, reduces my point score a lot, which at the moment is at the whole total of a normal game. And none of her ships are dead.
I mean, and we've played... Well, the game's been going longer than a normal game now, so huzzah, standard game, you win.
Yes. I mean, I'm winning this game by quite a lot as well, because if we look at my ships, the only one that's in danger is the one that I have done 10 crits to myself. Yeah.
I think one of the things I've definitely learned here is if you put 6 crocs down, I'll ask you to bring a different list.
Yes, it's there has been times where I've nearly bought multiple crocs because I've seen them cheap, but the cost of, as we've discussed, converting them to 2.0 makes them not worth it.
Yeah. And also, to be honest, how often are you ever going to be in a position to fly 6?
I mean, I've played what Epic came out over a year ago now. We got the conversion kit, and this is my third or fourth Epic game. Like,
Yeah.
not including. Oh, it must be 2 years ago now. Not including lockdown. Like, Epic is just, you can't play Epic at like a night session because it takes the entire night. You need to, like, I've only ever played it on like a Saturday where you've like dedicated the whole day to it because it's intense.
Yeah, you definitely have to dedicate more than. I mean, this game, when we recorded it, it took something like 45 minutes to set up, and that was on TTS.
Yes, it was.
So
it's not a quick thing.
Yeah. Oh, and there we have a ram from Brown onto the Gozanti.
I mean, Brown can shrug that off, but the Gozanti is not looking too happy about it.
No, I don't think the Gozanti is very happy there. I'm not overly familiar with the dial for the Sea Rock. What kind of manoeuvres does it actually have?
I haven't got one to hand, but off of memory, it has 0 stop, 0 left and right, 1 forward, 1 left and right, 2 and 3 forwards, left and right, and then 4 and 5 straights. Most of the maneuvers are red, so if you're dealing with energy conservation, then you've got to be careful what you use. There's all of the zeros are red. That's a standard. I don't think you get white zeros as a standard. The ones are all blue, I believe, and then most of them are red. Like, there's a few whites, a few blues.
I've just pulled them up. It's a very odd looking dial. So you're right. All of the zeros are red. Your 1 and 2 forwards are blue. 1 and 2 bank and 3 forward is white. 3 bank, 4 forward, and 5 forward are red.
Yes, so not only am I dealing 5 crits to myself, I'm also depleting my very limited pool of energy, because unlike something like the Raider that has 6 or 8 native energy, I think it's 6.
6 native energy.
The Croc only have 3 native energy. Now, if you have, like I have on yellow and red, you have Corsair Refit, you get those 2 extra energy at the cost of 2 of your shields, which you only have 4 of to start with. Yeah, you get 2 hull to make up for it, but 2 hull is much worse than 2 shields, especially when you're ramming.
Yeah, I mean, getting those crits. From one thing I've definitely taken from watching this epic game with you is that you take more crits as an epic ship. Then obviously you've got more space to take them, but you seem to take more crits in epic than you do in a standard game.
Yes, probably more by the virtue of there are more dice going in. You have more native dice, and if you're ramming, you're guaranteeing yourself some crits, or if you're going over asteroids, you're guaranteeing yourself some crits. Like, it is easier for an epic to pick up crits. Yes, it's unfair because they're nasty crits.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's probably why their crits are definitely more flavorful. I suppose a very healthy epic ship is extremely scary, so they want to be able to make it so that you can reduce that scariness down a little bit.
Yes, like when you're flying like an entirely standard ship list against something involving any number of huge ships, so I've like flown a standard swarm against something with a tantive in, like 5 of your ships is equal to 1 tantive, and 5 of your ships can't regen shields. So you have things like Dreadnought Hunter, you have things like the B6 Blade prototype, because as a general rule, a standard ship's got no chance against a huge ship. You need those extra help, and you need the crits to be as nasty as possible so that you can actually damage it effectively. You can actually ruin its day a little bit as a standard ship.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that does help is where you don't have those evade dice, unless you're doing a speed 3 to 5 maneuver as a Sea Rock, or it's outside of range 3 and obstructed, etc. The weight of fire that's going to go into there is going to be very useful. I mean, the reinforce is definitely a key thing to try and remember to use on an epic ship. It's something that's going to help you survive longer there. but that weight of fire that you're going to take is going to be not great for you.
No, and if you're flying, like, rather than flying multiple huge ships, you're flying one as a flagship, and then you have a greater amount of standard ships than you'd have in a normal list. You've then got to work out, how am I dividing my fire? Because I can take out the big scary thing, but then the normal ships are going to flank me, or I can take out the normal ships, and the big scary thing is going to flank me. It's very hard to work out what is the actual threat if you're flying against a mixed list. Like, obviously, it's easy on this because most of the points are in huge ships. I mean, in mine, all are on huge ships, but enemy's list, I can take out the huge ships and not worry about the little ships because they're not that threatening. Like, there's 4 ties and 2 brutes. Like, they're not, compared to the 2 big things, they're ants effectively. They're not worth the time.
Yeah. Well, anyway, speaking of time, what we're going to do, we're going to end part 2 there just before we get to the next round. So again, guys, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that notification bell, and we will see you next time.